How to use this book. This book has been written from first-hand experience in running a successful guitar tuition business. Following the advice outlined in this book, you can absolutely have a brilliant career in teaching music, but it is up to you to put the work in with each and every exercise. Reading this book alone will not do half as much as really using it. As with guitar practice, repetition is paramount. Spend a sufficient amount of time on each exercise and reread every task to develop a deep understanding of the lessons. Don't be afraid to write on the book if you have a physical copy, or use highlighters and sticky notes. Do what is necessary to get the most out of this blueprint for teaching success. Use 2 notebooks to aid you in your teaching journey whilst using this book. Label one as What I Learned, and the other as a bit each day. In your What I Learned book, write down any observations for each exercise and things that you learn along the way as you go. You can also list documentaries or artists that you discover as you use this book. In your A Bit Each Day notebook, list down what you do towards each exercise. This will help you keep track of how you are doing and provide you with a valuable source of reference to look back on as needed. I strongly suggest making time daily for your work with this book in setting up or developing your teaching business. Setting daily appointments to work on the exercises will see you achieve better progress and you will get more out of this book. You can use this book at any stage of your teaching career, and there are valuable lessons in here for both teachers who are starting out and seasoned professionals who need some fresh ideas and inspiration. Keep the book to come back to at various points in your career. Best of luck, put in the effort, and you can enjoy a very rewarding life in music, sharing your passion and helping others at the same time. You've made the first step by investing in the time to listen to this audiobook. Welcome to an amazing next chapter in your career. Chapter 1. Setting up and Branding. Before you jump in head first into a new teaching venture and experience pain as a result of rushing, it is wise to think first and to research and plan just a little bit to make things a lot easier. The term branding can feel a bit clinical, especially in the arts. However, it's important to realize that most of what has influenced you has been branded. Artists ranging from the Sex Pistols to Nirvana, Mozart to Robert Johnson have all been branded by having their name or logo used in a consistent font or image, which has helped to instill a sense of trust in the person who is purchasing their product. Having consistent branding also develops a sense of awareness and familiarity around an artist, and this means that the brand can be used on multiple projects and mediums. First, as I said, before you jump into trying to set up your space or buy gear for teaching, think about your branding from the start and what you would like to represent as a teacher of music. You can also look to your favorite teachers or artists for inspiration. Write down and research the branding of 3 artists who appeal to you, focusing on font only for this example. Answer the following questions for each. What is their font? Why does it work? How many colors do they use? Where does their brand name appear? And have they ever changed their branding, and what effect did it have on you? Make sure to be using your A Bit Each Day and What I Learned notebooks. You can write your findings and observations for this exercise in the Make Money Teaching Guitar book or in your What I Learned notebook. Who will you teach? When starting to teach, it can be tempting to answer that question with, well, I will teach everyone, though a clearer focus on certain types of students can make teaching easier and more enjoyable for you. If your speciality is rock, it makes sense to teach rock and emphasize that as your speciality. You will get more students who like your style, and you will feel more confident in your teaching. Trying to teach a student jazz when you can't play jazz yourself can lead to feelings of insecurity, and if you give a poor lesson, word will spread and your tuition business will suffer. Choosing a niche market or specific clientele can also make you stand out as a teacher and appeal more to students who are looking for something along those lines. If the student's passion for a certain style matches your abilities, you will have a higher rate of attentive, dedicated students. Describe your ideal client. What do they like? Are they committed to practice? Are they at a certain age, or are they at a certain stage? Where are these people found? This is valuable for knowing where to advertise later. So for example, are they at school or are they at work? Are they in a certain suburb? Choosing a name. As with bands or albums, a great name can arouse more initial interest in a music tuition business. In the name of a business alone, you have the opportunity to let potential clients know what the teaching is about, what its strengths are, where it is located, and much more. So an effective name is a positive start to getting those clients inquiring about your service in the first place. Many successful business owners name their business after something other than their own name. The reason for this is that it's easier to sell in the future should you choose to expand or to go into other areas with your music career. Yes, you can sell your tuition as a business. Business owners would see that you have a list of regular clients, a brand name, and systems for teaching, which can be bought as a package and marketed. Again, that's a big reason why you might choose to have a name for your business which isn't your own. However, I have used my own name in the past, and that's a perfectly fine way of doing things. If you are choosing your own name, then you can still think about how to word the title of your business. For example, it may be John Smith Guitar Tuition, or will you have it as John Smith Guitar Lessons? Write down some words that may describe what it is you do. For example, teaching, tuition, lessons, coaching, instruction, etc. And read about the subtle differences between these words, as one might suit better than the other. For the sake of being open to different ideas, write down words that describe your business in terms of geography. For example, West City, rural, South Side, international. List other words that instill confidence in your lessons. Mastery, achievement, professional. Finally, and only after you have completed the previous tasks, name your teaching business. Your logo. A logo is the image that represents your brand, business, musical act, or product and service. Most times, simplicity is key, as it makes the image easy to remember. The benefit of having a logo is that you can use it on advertising for events that you hold and other products that you might develop. As with using a familiar font, a consistent logo also develops trust in your students or those who purchase your products and services. Firstly, research other teaching logos or logos of artists that you like. Does the picture or image reflect the personality of the band? Is it reserved, or bold, or fun? Fill in some notes in your What I Learned notebook. These notes can be looked at later for you to reflect on, or used for creating other logos in the future. Here are some ideas to try when coming up with your logo. Write down some ideas for changing a word in your teaching business name into a symbol, initial, or image. List 10 strengths you have regarding your guitar playing specifically. After you have completed the list, draw a symbol or image to depict each strength. These can all be used as potential ideas for your teaching logo. What are your teaching strengths? Teaching strengths are often different to playing strengths, so list these, 10 if you can, and draw up some images that reflect them. Read a little about the effect that different colors have on people's perceptions. You may disregard it, though there is a reason why baby products are often in pink or blue. After doing some reading on the subject, decide on some colors that you would like to use in your logo. You may like to narrow it down to 2 or 3. Effective logos often work in both black and white and color. What would your logo look like as either of these? After really taking time to have some fun and creatively work through all of the previous exercises, draw a rough sketch of your logo. Don't worry if you're not great at drawing. As long as you can convey the idea to another person, that is fine. Your tagline. Your tagline is a catchphrase to stick in people's minds when advertising your service. A tagline should encompass the spirit of your product and be easy to remember. One of the best examples perhaps is "Just Do It" by Nike. Come up with a tagline to complement your teaching business. What are some ways that you can draw from the words in your business name? Can you get ideas from your logo? Go over those strengths in teaching that you wrote down earlier. What would you incorporate from that list into your tagline? Write your new tagline in your What I Learned notebook. Make it look good. Although you might see presentation as slightly superficial, it isn't, and it's simply an extension of what you are doing. First impressions do count to people who are going to be parting with their money, and a professional-looking font and logo that people are aware of will really help to gain initial interest in your advertising. If you are a designer by trade, you might like to do this part yourself. Generally, however, guitar teachers are not graphic designers, and it is advisable to seek the help of a professional graphic design artist. By spending a little bit extra in the beginning, you will save yourself the frustration of clients not approaching you because of a perceived lack of professionalism. If you are starting out and just don't have the money, chances are that you can find a friend with design software such as Photoshop or InDesign who can help you, or swap you a great logo for a few free lessons. This part of the process can be setting up in a fun way itself. Who out of the people you know could help you to bring your logo, tagline, or branding to life? Which professionals are in your area for you to use should you choose to pay for a better result? If you are outside of the city, who can help you professionally with design over Skype or email? Business cards. Generally regarded as a business essential, business cards help you get your business out to a larger number of people and help with your sense of professionalism in tuition services. A big secret bit of advice from me to you: give your business cards to the staff at the local music retail outlet. They want customers, and by handing out your cards, you gain clients who will need to buy strings and equipment at their store. This helps both of you out in the end, and provided you recommend that your students use that store and acknowledge that you are their teacher, this can be a mutually beneficial working relationship for a long time. I had a full roster of students with a full waiting list for many years, and aside from the fact that I worked hard to be a good teacher, this was largely due to my dealings with the local music retailer. There are many options for business cards, and you can use the ideas for logo design that you did before to help you out with your cards as well. You can go for double-sided, color, black and white, gloss or matte, simple or detailed. Again, a nice business card can enhance people's perception of your business. Design your business card. Use my business card builder in Make Money Teaching Guitar to help you. List around 15 or 16 places where your business card could go. You could start generally, so music stores, the supermarket notice board, and then expand the list using specific places, for example, the music store on 5th and Evergreen. Set a date to get your cards made and order them. Use an online search or directory to find the service you wish to use. Here are some things to think about when designing your business cards. What colors will you use? Look at your font and branding. What details do you need on the card? Your name, your address, etc. Do you need social media or website details? Single-sided or double-sided? Will you put your logo on the card, and if so, where? Where will your tagline be used? Where are you getting them made? Do they do custom designs, or are you using a template? Are you going to choose a gloss or matte finish? How thick and what size or shape do they need to be? Draw a rough sketch of your new business cards in your What I Learned notebook. Location is important. One of the decisions when starting to teach guitar or making a move with your lesson location is where will you teach from? For most people, starting out from home is the most affordable and easiest option. Another idea is to rent a professional space, and a third way, which you can integrate with the other two options if need be, is lessons over an internet communications program such as Skype or Viber. I will talk about Skype lessons a bit later, but for now, let's look at the first two options. Back in my one-on-one lesson days, I always taught from home. This saved me money on transport costs for sure, and rent did not cost anything extra. The most important thing, should you choose to teach from home, is to keep your work and relaxation areas separate. Do not teach from your living room, because when you finish, your work will be staring at you, and this will cause stress or overworking. If you can, use another room altogether. If this is simply not possible due to living conditions, have your couch or sofa facing away from your workspace, or have a screen that you can use to separate the two areas. If you would like to hire a space, then go for either a nice, clean room, or if stylized, a room that matches the feel of your lessons can work. You might even like to talk to your local music instrument store and make a deal with them. Whichever you choose, the room that you use will ideally be accessible by someone in a wheelchair and will have enough space or a separate area for students and visitors to wait. For the sake of knowledge, should you choose to expand or change your setup in the future, check rental prices for private spaces on the internet. Decide where you will teach from. If you already teach a little, separate that space from your relaxation area. Write where you will teach from in your What I Learned notebook. The basic setup. When I first started, I didn't have any money to spend, so I literally began with only paper, a pen, my guitar, and an amp. No computer, no fancy printer or software, just what I played on and something to write notes with, and it worked. You don't need to get too caught up in gear and equipment. It's more important that you just make the start and that you teach well, which will also improve as time goes on. Having said that, I recommend that you do invest where you can, as good equipment will sound better, it will feel better for you, and it will give your student comfort from seeing that you have a good environment for teaching. There are 3 basic items that you should start with, and try to make sure that these are of good quality: a guitar, a music stand, and 2 chairs. Even in this seemingly oversimple fact, there are choices that you can make. The chairs should not have arms, as this would make it awkward to hold your guitar. If you get good quality chairs that are comfortable, they will last longer before you have to replace them. There are even choices when it comes to sheet music stands. Do an online search for types of music stands and you will see what I mean. I would recommend using a conductor's stand over a folding stand. The conductor's type of stand is sturdier and a little larger, so it's good for holding multiple pages next to each other or thicker books that a student might bring in. Your guitar should obviously be of good quality, though more important is the maintaining of your gear. Regular string set changes, upgrade crackling cables, and get your guitar and amp serviced when needed. Research music stands and write the notes in your What I Learned notebook. Purchase a good quality music stand. Purchase 2 comfy chairs with back support, and take time to get the right ones. And lastly, buy any new strings or leads that you need. It is worth spending the money. Extra equipment. Once you have the basics set up, there are some almost essentials that, although not necessary, can really help make your teaching space more functional and effective. I'm a bit old school and started with paper and a pen, so I don't have time for excuses for not teaching due to a lack of gear. The first stereo I used for teaching was a cassette tape player that was handed down from my grandfather and had crackly speakers, which wasn't ideal, but the most important thing was that I made the start. If you are able to use a good sound system or great speakers, that of course is recommended. Either along with or in place of a stereo, you can use a computer or laptop and speakers. You can use a computer for demonstrating songs on a media player, or use a video platform for backing tracks and music video demonstrations. Of course, computers are a great tool for recording students too, though I will speak about that a bit later. After you have a good system for playback of audio, you can get a couch or sofa for students or their parents who are waiting before or during lessons. Again, spend a bit of money initially to make a more comfortable environment if you can. If you don't have the money, taking time to find a free sofa in reasonable condition will do. There is no shortage on online trade stores such as eBay. Get an efficient computer setup or audio playback device and a couch for those who might have to wait before, between, or during lessons. Here is a short list of other accessories you might like for your teaching space. A guitar stand, so that you can put your guitar down without it falling over. Desk trays, things to keep your desk clutter-free. Extra guitar straps for helping students to play standing up, and notation or tab paper. Physical or digital. It is up to you whether you employ resources for teaching that are physical, paper and a pen for example, or digital, so software and apps. My personal recommendation is both, although there is no right or wrong as long as your teaching is effective and you are feeling happy that you are teaching. I am not a big fan of technology, though I am open to using it if it can be useful and makes a positive difference in lessons. The internet can be seen as taking away from listening to whole albums, but that's up to the listener, and sites such as YouTube are actually really amazing to use as teaching tools. You can find brilliant backing tracks to help with your students' improvisation, and you can use an online drum machine or metronome to improve a student's ability to keep in time. You can also encourage study and discovery of artists through sites like Wikipedia or Songfacts. Information might not be 100% correct 100% of the time, but that's what you are there for, as a guide, and to encourage students to double-check facts if they seem out. I disregard most babble about "we are in the modern age," because we have always been at the edge of our existence time-wise, since the beginning of time. People have been evolving their skills and output with tools and technology since the days of inventing the hammer. And there is always debate when new things are made aware of in the public eye. The thing that does not change is the fact that one can generally use technology for argument or progress, though one should never depend on it. Look at all your teaching resources and see if some of the physical things might be better suited to being digital. For example, you might put the student roll, attendance record, and handout files on your computer instead of hoarding sheets of paper, or maybe you prefer it in physical form. There are also websites that help with admin and bookkeeping roles. They're another option again. Research online to find ideas and to see what other teachers have done. Chapter 2. How and what to teach. Teaching methods. There are 3 common approaches regarding methods of teaching. The first is planned lessons, where, much like it sounds, lessons are planned and structured before a student arrives. The second is spontaneous, where lessons are not planned and are created each time around what the student wants or needs that day. The third is syllabus, where the teacher takes the student through gradebooks or a method set out by another school or institution. Whilst they can all have their pros and cons, I prefer to teach using a combination, at the same time as adapting to the student's unique needs. My way of teaching guitar is to encourage the learning of theory by introducing a new theory element at each lesson and support that idea by using a song of interest which contains that chord, scale, technique, or idea. When appropriate, I will use the opposite, going through a song and expanding on a technique or idea in that song so that the student learns with enthusiasm and gains a firm grasp of the subjects that are taught. I also integrate music appreciation by introducing the student to artists they may not have heard, whose genre we may be covering at the time, or whose signature technique is the same as the one that we would be covering. I personally am not a fan of pre-planning each lesson for every student. This is too time-consuming and drains your energy, especially if you are teaching 60-plus students every week. Instead, I will use reminders to keep me on track with what each student is covering or may need for the next lesson, and pay attention to the student's progress and communication. That will determine the best path to take each time, and will help with making better progress overall. However, there are exceptions. Depending on the circumstances, I will pre-structure a student's lesson when necessary, though making sure to keep that structure in the best interests of the student. Use the Teaching Methods Planner page to get clear on how you might integrate these ideas and what method or methods you will use when teaching. Research methods of teaching music. These could include the Kodai method or Suzuki methods for teaching children, or following programs from institutions such as RGT in the UK or Cambridge International Exams. If you are unsure, I would highly suggest that the best place to start to learn about teaching effectively is the method that you're using following this book. Many teachers are highly skilled but may be lacking in the sight reading department themselves. Decide now if you will teach notation and make it clear to your students, as this is a common question that is asked. Write the answers to the following questions. Are you going to teach notation? If so, how will you teach it, and what resources will you use? Do you need to improve your notation transcription skills? Is it worth your time? In other words, will you realistically put the effort in that is needed, or would you be better off saving your energy to focus on your strong areas? And importantly, who could help you with this? Some students may want to focus on notation. Others may have no interest at all. Some students may want to go through gradebooks, and others may not be fond of a more academic approach. What are some possible types of students in this regard, and which ways would you prefer and not prefer to teach? Write a paragraph or two that you could use on a pamphlet to describe your approach to teaching and what makes your method or methods strong. Gather your books. Okay, so in Chapter 1 I asked you to get your basic setup going and talked about bookkeeping, which includes enrollment timetable charts, student roles, spreadsheets for handouts and things like that. Now is the time to make sure that all of those basics are in place. Once you have checked that your basic setup is ready to go, gather all the books you own that could help you with your teaching. That includes all tab books, notated scores, workbooks, instructional books, and magazines. Arrange them in your teaching space so that they're easy to get to when needed. Decide which books you will lend out to students, if any, and which items are not to be lent out. If you like, you could also write down a list of the titles and authors of each item and where they are, a kind of catalogue for safekeeping. If you are deciding to teach using physical materials, you can photocopy pages from the books that you will use for teaching. If there is an interesting article on theory, you can photocopy it to use or rewrite later. Check with photocopy laws and copyright information for each book and make copies of what you will use this week. If you do not have a printer or copier, you can go to your local copy centre and use their services. Here's a tip for you. Keep an empty shoebox for transporting or storing pages that need copying. It puts them all in one place. Go through with tasks 1, 2, and 3 before going on to the next exercise. Start your folders. Another system you can use is that of utilizing folders for storing tabs and sheet music with theory, songs, and exercises. I started with a few exercises and songs that I wrote by hand and would photocopy these so that if another student would benefit from going through those same exercises, I wouldn't have to write it all out again. As time went on, my collection grew to a series of folders containing songs and theory that I used regularly in my lessons. Write out or notate any songs that you know that you could use in your teaching. Parts of songs are fine too, though don't be lazy. Try and get the whole song written out where possible. I would condense to a page or two where I could to make it easier for students to learn and memorize, and easier to store. Write out any theory that you know. This includes chords, scales, songwriting ideas, techniques, interesting facts, and anything you can think of that can help your students relate to what you are teaching them. After completing both of those tasks, gather your written sheets of songs and theory and your photocopies from the previous exercise. File them in your A4 clear file or ring binders and write down in list form the pages that you have put in each folder. You may wish to separate into theory and song folders. It's up to you. Photocopy the list for your records and document it on the computer. If you keep physical copies of the list, you can make a student file for each student and put a line through the pages that you give out to each student each lesson. Ideally, you now have your basic setup for teaching looking great. Your books and files are in order, and you have your audio system, computer, guitar, and folders ready. Use your notebooks. The What I Learned and A Bit Each Day diaries and notebooks that I mentioned at the start of this course are not just for you. They are there for you to give to your students to help with their progress. Taking 5 minutes at the end of each lesson for students to write down what they learned really enforces the value of the lesson that they just had with you. It helps them to respect your teaching even more and lets the lessons sink in. Your students can also develop better self-discipline by keeping track of their practice in the A Bit Each Day diary. You can choose to buy notebooks to hand to them as part of signing up with you, or you can just ask them to purchase 2 notebooks early in their time with you. This practice of keeping track and noting down important ideas is extremely valuable for students of all ages and skill levels. Issue your students with 2 notebooks, one labelled What I Learned and the other labelled A Bit Each Day. As mentioned, you can either buy it for them as a nice extra to your lesson or save money and encourage independence by getting the student to get them. Either way is fine. It's more important that they use them. Continue using your own What I Learned and A Bit Each Day notebooks yourself as you progress with this course. You can show students that you walk your walk by being open with them about this course and sharing your notes with them. They will be more inspired to use their notebooks if they can see it's something that you have done too. Leading by example is always the best way to influence positive change. Always explain the benefits. Your students are just that, students. To you, it may be obvious why they should learn the pentatonic scales, but they might not be able to see it. Always explain the benefits of learning and what you are showing them. There are a few reasons for doing this. A. It shows them a confidence in your teaching and gives them confidence that you understand the subject you are teaching. B. They might be unaware of why something is good to learn. Sometimes the simple act of explaining why something is helpful opens their mind and encourages attention to what is being said. C. By explaining the benefits to your student, it helps reinforce those lessons in your own mind and can actually help you as a guitar player as well. Go through your folders and list down the benefit for each riff, song, or theory example that you will be teaching. You do not have to explain the technical benefits for every single riff, but it certainly helps if you explain how things help as you work through the song together. Put what you write into practice and make sure that you explain to your students the benefits of what they are learning. Make it a habit. Work with their interests. It's a funny thing about teaching. You may demonstrate an 8-finger tapping, beautifully translated rendition of a classical masterpiece, but if the student likes trendy pop music, you can play 4 notes of a current pop song, and it will be the 4-note riff that blows their mind. As a teacher, this can be frustrating at first, but you can learn to incorporate their tastes and open them up to new worlds of music appreciation at the same time. Here are some ways to work with your students' likes rather than against them. Take note of what they like at their first lesson. Paying attention and really listening is a big part of being successful for musicians, students, and guitar teachers. On a student's first lesson, instead of rushing straight into playing, you can ask them why they want to learn and what they hope to get out of lessons, as well as their preferences in terms of music genre. Write down their responses on their student file. Use a song or style that they like to demonstrate new techniques. If you are trying to teach double stops to a student and are showing them a country music example, they will hurry to practice if they like country music, but might get lazy if they prefer another style. Align your demonstrations with their tastes where possible, or use a recorded piece of music in a genre that they like in which the technique is used. Show them the artists who influence the music they listen to. Tracing musical lineage is a great way to open the minds of students who may only like current music into being aware of the massive pool of talent from the past. I cover this more later when I expand on music appreciation. Explain using examples from their outside of music interests. For example, if a student plays sport, you can relate the importance of doing basic technique exercises to the sport that they like. Practicing different kicks separately in football is like practicing techniques separately with a guitar. It can increase self-discipline and strengthens those techniques faster. Putting techniques together using a full song is like bringing sports practice into a full game or match. It is when the hard work pays off and it all comes together. Pay attention. It can be easy to be too focused on what is right for the student and miss what they are saying. As with any relationship, the student-teacher relationship works best with both parties listening and communicating well. An extra quality that you can have, standing out in a positive way, is paying attention to subtleties. What I mean is that if your student likes pink and you are issuing notebooks, can you give them a pink notebook? Or use a pink highlighter? It's a small detail, but it is these small touches that all add up in the student's experience. Go through your current list of students. Write down 2 things that they have said to you which may be clues as to little extras you can give them in one of their lessons. Do they like a certain colour or play a sport? Have they any outside interest that you can use in teaching examples? Have they mentioned that they have resonated more in a lesson that you have shared or a way that you've taught? Note: if you do not have any current students, get some immediately. Advertise. Put a notice in the local instrument store or even the supermarket and put the word out to friends and family. You can still do the exercise I mentioned before, but think of it as when you get students. What type of extra details could you take note of to help with your teaching? Reward effort. Self-discipline is very important. Rewarding students occasionally for putting in extra effort is a great way to make the student feel that they are valued and can actually help to instill a greater desire in the student for expressing their self-discipline through action. A little praise here and there, when deserved, can work wonders too. There are little extras you can use in your teaching to brighten a student's day. Here are 2 ideas, one for children and one for adults. Stickers for kids. Don't be fooled into thinking that students are too old for stickers. Even teenagers who may seem least likely to think that a sticker is cool are still secretly grateful when they receive something like a sticker. It's because it shows that you value their effort. And vouchers for adults. Adults who come to your lesson are often paying for others in their household. They probably have bills to pay as well as food and rent, which means that if they receive a free lesson or a voucher for a store, they appreciate that. It helps them and it lets them feel that their efforts are valued. If you feel that you can't replace one of their paid lessons with a free lesson, make sure to let them know that the free lesson is for a time added to or as well as their regular paid spot. Buy some stickers for your younger students this week. You can get different types of stickers, but just be aware of students who may like the opposite of what you think. Guitar-related stickers are also available. Create and print some vouchers or certificates for your older students using Photoshop or Microsoft Word. There are tutorials available online, or you can get a friend to help you. Music appreciation. Opening your mind to and understanding the difference between appreciating and liking is a powerful advantage for translating knowledge to skill. Students who can appreciate music from the past and see the craft that goes into genres they may not necessarily prefer will most often develop into arguably better musicians and artists, although using artist and better in the same sentence may feel contradictory to some, but that's for another discussion. I encourage you to gently guide your students' awareness to music that they haven't heard in order to help them grow as a musician. Start with music that they like, and then trace back the path and talk about the musicians who were before them. For example, if a student likes a new rock band with a classic feel, you may go back to Buck Cherry, then back to Guns N' Roses because Buck Cherry were influenced by GNR. You might then know that Guns N' Roses guitarist Slash was heavily influenced by Aerosmith and the guitarist for Aerosmith, Joe Perry. In doing so, your student could learn that Aerosmith did a cover of Train Kept A-Rolling by the Yardbirds, a band that included the famous guitarist Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, and Jimmy Page, who later formed Led Zeppelin. So there you can see how tracing back might expand a student's appreciation for different guitarists and styles, especially when they can see how other artists may have done things a long time earlier than they thought possible. There are many ways to encourage music appreciation. You can educate a student while watching a segment of a documentary, or you can ask the student to guess interesting music-related facts and then give them the answer. Look at the Music Appreciation Helper page in Make Money Teaching Guitar for some great ideas and exercises to complete yourself. There are some really brilliant music documentaries to watch that would be interesting for you as well as your students. For contemporary music, something that I recommend include the 7 Ages of Rock series, the History of Rock and Roll series, and the Classic Albums series. I also created a research template sheet for my private students where I would get the students to read about a different artist for each day of the week, based on a genre that the student was practicing at the time. For example, if the student liked grunge, I would write the name of a grunge band for him or her to check out on the Monday, and then a grunge band for the Tuesday, etc. At the end of the week, I would also write down a subgenre or related genre for them to look at, so for example, Riot Girl. The above example is just that, an example, so don't worry if you do not like grunge. It's not about that. The point is to get the student researching, studying, appreciating, and loving music. List 10 music documentaries that you could use to accompany your teaching. Write some of the main genres of music that you are good at teaching, and list some of the ways that you could make learning about those genres interesting for your students. What are some guitar or music-related facts that might fascinate your students? And although the whole subgenre thing can get silly, what are some subgenres that may be interesting for you to teach, for yourself as well as your students? Revision. It is important to be aware of the pace which suits each individual student. Some students are simply taking up the guitar as a hobby to relax in their spare time, and a slower pace might be appropriate. For those who are practicing more or committed to making a career from music, you can usually go along at more intense levels. However, it is vital not to rush too much, as this can cause a feeling of overwhelm for the student and can subconsciously cause you to fluster with your teaching. At the beginning of each lesson, it's nice to go over what the student covered the week before. If a student is having trouble or could not practice much, take time to patiently go over the exercise or song with them again. Help with teaching students who are simply being lazy or difficult to teach is covered in the Common Problems section of this book. If you feel that a student is enjoying what they are practicing but needs more time, then you can have a revision lesson where the student spends the whole lesson practicing with your guidance. Revision lessons are also extremely useful for strengthening their understanding of theory. Provided that you have been using the What I Learned and a Bit Each Day notebooks, you can use a revision lesson to go through these in detail with your student as well. Have a revision lesson with each student this week. Cover theory and ideas that you have shared with them in past lessons. Ask each student what they are having trouble with understanding or what they feel they need to go over from previous lessons, and really listen to what they say. Do your best to get the issues at hand sorted, and this will help confidence for all. Make a list of some of the different kinds of revision lessons that you could have with your students. You might like to separate theory revision from chord revision, song revision, from ideas revision, etc. Student interaction. Most students prefer lessons when interacting with their teacher. Interaction between student and teacher forms a stronger relationship and instills confidence in the students, as well as making them feel more comfortable around you, and you around them. Asking questions is the easiest way to get your students talking more and thinking about what is being shown at their lesson. Of course, you should get your students to physically demonstrate what they have practiced, but also asking them to talk a bit about what they are learning lets them process the information effectively and lets you be aware of anywhere that the student still requires further help. An exercise I created to allow my students to open up more with me and address the issues that they may have held back on is my 20 questions exercise. It is, as the name suggests, where the student writes down 20 questions to do with learning the guitar. You can have it generic, in other words, any topic related to the guitar, or you might like to narrow in on a specific area, for example, guitar techniques. I find this exercise really useful because it encourages students to think for themselves. 9 times out of 10, a student will insist that they can't think of anything, but with gentle encouragement and a little time, they inevitably write down a question, and then another. And after a while, this process loosens the gears and they come up with more questions. In turn, they learn about learning, as well as finding the answers to the questions that they had. The week after your revision lesson, or in a week as soon as possible that suits, get your students to do the 20 questions exercise. If they are resistant, show them this book and explain the benefits of trying the exercise. Another added benefit for you is that you can keep the questions and answers for instructional videos or further lessons. Show them the big picture. Students often can't see the road ahead. At times, all they can see is the perceived dead end or unknown corner coming up. You have already travelled much of the road that they are on, so you know the big picture and why it's important to practice their way through those twists and turns. At the end of the year, remind them just how much they have learned by going through each student's file and listing what you have covered in songs and theory, as well as any extra activities such as recording or event planning. It can be a surprise to students when they look at the list and see all of these new things that they now know that they didn't know just 12 months earlier. A very short example could look like this. The songs might be Wipeout, Apache, Enter Sandman, Sweet Child of Mine, Little Green Dragon. The theory might be major and minor chords, bar-shaped chords, minor pentatonic, and say a major scale along one string. Go through each student's folders and note down a list of what you have covered. If you want to, you can give the list to your students now or wait until the end of the year ahead. Bonus section, Teaching Tools. Teaching tool number 1, audio record and playback. The first tool is anything you can use to demonstrate audio examples. This could vary widely depending on your style and budget. For some teachers it may be a record player, and for others it would be the latest digital audio system. It should be said that it's not necessary to have the latest and greatest audio system, but having something that can play examples and quality sound is obviously a good start. Start with what you have, and if you budget or if you see fit, invest in a good quality sound system. The most common systems to get are a surround sound stereo system or home theatre system, or a desktop or laptop with media player set up to high quality speakers. On top of these, although not a priority above decent furniture and music gear, there are also these options as a point of interest. A record player. Some styles of music, such as dance, stoner rock, and classical, still have many artists producing onto vinyl. If you are really into vintage things, try and source a gramophone. Cassette player. Some students like retro music, and a cassette player can also be used to demonstrate changes in technology. Radio. A novelty radio is often a point of interest and can be used in examples of playing over anything by ear. Switching on a random station and jamming along using your scale knowledge is a good way to show your students the benefits of utilizing theory. Mobile phone. Students' phone's record function can be used to record lessons for reference throughout the week. There are also tuning apps and mobile recording programs that can be downloaded. Teaching tool number 2. A video sharing website or video hosting website is a website where videos are uploaded by users for public viewing. These sites are amazing for finding out what could otherwise be hard to find videos and documentaries of musicians and their music. Websites come and go, so check with what is currently available and use the best as you see fit. There are multiple uses to these sites, apart from the obvious of simply viewing the videos. You can watch a section of a music documentary with your student and pause for a Q&A on the subject. You can find many quality backing tracks as well, and you can even use the karaoke backing tracks to help your voice training. Another way that you can use these websites to your benefit is in researching artists. A student might ask you how to play along with one of their favorite artists whom you haven't heard of. Using a tool like a video sharing website means that you can learn a little about that said artist and possibly practice improvisation over their tracks. Use a video sharing website to find 3 backing tracks that would be suitable to help with your students' improvisation. Find a music documentary online about an artist who is often mentioned in your teaching. And if a student of yours is learning a song, see if there is a backing track available for that song on one of the video sharing websites. Teaching tool number 3. An online encyclopedia. Although questionable in terms of 100% accuracy, an online encyclopedia is still an excellent place to start when it comes to exploring information about an artist or group, style or song. Knowledge is power, and it isn't just your fingers moving that turns you into a great guitarist. You must continue to educate the mind as well. One of the reasons using an online encyclopedia is interesting for students is that it uses hyperlinks, which is those highlighted words that you can click on which take you to another relevant page. For example, if you look up an article about Les Paul, it might have the words multi-track recording hyperlinked. If you click on that word or term, another page will open which contains information on that subject. This can be a very useful way of letting your natural curiosity teach you, and can open the student's mind to music or topics of which they would have otherwise been unaware. Start to use an online encyclopedia in your own research of artists as well as in your teaching. Ask your students to use the online encyclopedia this week and to research the artist whose music that they are learning. Get them to bring you back some information on the artist to your next lesson. Make sure that it is information that is interesting and that they haven't just used the copy and paste functions. Track your own tangent. Throughout the week, when you find yourself listening to music, go onto an online encyclopedia and find some information on that artist. Use the hyperlinks and simply let your curiosity take you where it will. When you are finished, note your research down in your A Bit Each Day and What I Learned notebooks. Write down what hyperlinks you clicked on and observe where you went and what you learned. Teaching tool number 4, the metronome. The metronome has been a useful tool for musicians for a long, long time, and that's not going to change anytime soon. People were attempting to create metronome-like devices or something to keep accurate time as far back as 840 AD. Modern versions of the metronome date back to around 1814. Analog metronomes are still in common use and are an interesting showpiece, although far more popular are digital metronomes found on electronic tuners. These are generally more affordable than their analog counterparts and fit easily into a guitar case or gig bag. An even more affordable option is an online metronome. If you have access to the internet on a computer or mobile device, then you can either use a free online metronome or download a metronome app. These are great tools for students to use and should be encouraged. Find an online metronome that you like to use and add the site to your bookmarks bar or menu on your computer. Practice using the metronome yourself with the same exercises that you would give to your student. This means that when it comes time for you to demonstrate how to use the metronome, you will feel confident in your presentation. Teaching tool number 5, the drum machine. As with the metronome, drum machines can be found in both analog and digital varieties. Both have their good points, and although physical drum machines can be interesting and more portable than software on a desktop, the digital version can be stored on a mobile device and is certainly more affordable than purchasing a physical drum machine. Drum machines are useful in your teaching if the student is having trouble with the metronome due to a lack of interest or discipline. Ideally, we would like to think that every student is so passionate about their practice that they would sit for hours with a metronome clicking away, but we all know this is not the case. Using a drum machine can be a little more interesting for them and can give that student a feeling of being closer to jamming with a band. Using physical gear, especially of the retro variety, can spark creativity, Some of the tracks on my Buzz Tapes album were made using a Zoom Rhythm Track 234 drum machine. It's not commercial music, but I had lots of fun using the physical drum machine rather than software. For teaching, however, I would use an online drum machine most of the time to help students develop a strong sense of rhythm. I also recommend using the online drum machine for providing percussive backing tracks when you are playing along with your student. Find a free drum machine online that you can use in your teaching and add it to your bookmarks bar or menu. Teaching tool number 6, Photo Booth. Being able to capture a student's performance in video as well as sound has many advantages. On top of being able to hear where one can improve, the student can also see where things need to be corrected. Often they will get a pleasant surprise when viewing a video, as their fingers will look to be doing better than what they thought. It usually feels harder to play than how it seems to the viewer. It is great to see your performance from an outside point of view, and a program like Photo Booth allows you to store these recordings for yourself and for your students to look back on when appropriate. I would recommend making photos on your computer for photo booth recordings of students. One of the most effective ways of encouraging students to practice more is to show them a before and after. Record them doing a riff, a lick, or a finger exercise at the beginning of a lesson. Dedicate the whole of that lesson to that one exercise. Trust me on this, the aim of a lesson is not to give the student lots of stuff. The aim of a lesson should be to educate and inspire, and bring out enthusiasm in a student, which causes improvement. After explaining the point of dedicating the lesson to one exercise, record them before the practice takes place. Then really be disciplined in your teaching, and have your students stick to repeating the exercise. You can use my benchmark lick idea of getting a student to set a personal record for the number of repetitions of a musical phrase. At the end of the lesson, record the student playing that part again, and they will be able to see the improvement in that small space of time. Create your photo booth folder, and inside of that, create a folder for each student. Record your students this week. You can also use Photo Booth to record your students practicing a song that they are learning on its first attempt and then again at the next lesson. Teaching tool number 7, Studio Recording Software. Studio, and even professional standard recording software, is now widely available for home use. There are many programs available, though an easy place to start is with the program GarageBand. If you can invest a little more time or patience, Pro Tools is the industry standard and is what I use for my demos. I also use Pro Tools to record my audio programs and have used it on all of my albums. Having professional recording software allows you to record your students and produce a clear, good quality recording for them to use and listen to. You can overdub and record multiple students at once, which is great when teaching duos or friends and family that attend lessons together. Using a program such as Pro Tools also gives you another element that you can add to your lessons, and many students find the sound engineering side of things interesting. Some might even have similar software at home, so appreciate the chance to be able to bring fun projects from their lessons and into their own creative environment. If you become skilled enough at using such a program, you will then also have the option of charging for demo recordings, which can bring some helpful extra income to your business. Check to see if you have a similar program on your computer. If not, see what you can get for your computer or mobile device. Multi-track apps are available for mobiles. Watch or listen to an online video tutorial on that program and start to get your head around the basics of using recording software. Incorporate what you learn into your lessons. You don't need to overshadow students' guitar practice with recording instruction, but just use it when it can be something extra to inspire and educate. Teaching tool number 8, Movie Maker. Another great tool for your teaching is a software program in which you can make movies or edit sound with pictures. The simple place to start is with either Windows Movie Maker or iMovie, though Premiere Pro is also an option. I have used iMovie for many demo ideas of students' music, and also for making interesting ideas for my own original songs. You can also put together short videos for advertising of your tuition business, and post them onto social media. Here are a few ideas listed for you. Take a student's photo booth demo and edit text to make it interesting visually. Make a mock song or album cover for your student in Photoshop, and then edit a recording of their song with the picture using Photo Booth to make it look like they have a real song. Use iMovie, Movie Maker, or similar to create an ad for your tuition business using sound and pictures or video. Complete each of those tasks, and then you can add any completed student demos to their respective folders. What to charge? There are many factors to consider when deciding what price to put on your lessons. It's most important, however, that you make a decision and stick to it. So let's look at how you can finally come to a decision regarding lesson price. Area. Obviously, low-income areas will generally call for a lower price, whereas clients in higher income areas can often pay a higher price for guitar lessons. Please note, though, that this is not always the case. If you are in a low-income area, do not sell yourself short, and remember this: just because you are in a low-income area does not mean that you have to earn a low income. The average. If you are unsure, a good place to start is by checking what other guitar teachers in your area charge. If you feel that you are around their level, then calculate the average price charged and go with that. If you are starting your tuition business from scratch or do not have much experience teaching, then a lower price might be okay to start with, but do not make your lessons too cheap because of a lack of confidence. Doing so will only stunt the growth of your confidence, which you will need when it comes time to raise your price. An above or average price means that you will get students who value your time, and you will have more income that you can put back into making the business better. Niche. If you are a specialist in a certain area of playing, or you have more experience than most, you may look into charging more from the start by providing 2 or more levels, one for basic guitar lessons, and a higher priced option for industry consultations or songwriting masterclasses. Calculate the average price of guitar lessons in your area and take the above information into consideration. Decide on your price and write it down in your What I Learned notebook. Taking payments. There are various ways to take payments for lessons, including, but not limited to, cash, credit card, electronic, and direct bank deposit. For the most part, cash and online deposit are used, so I will focus on these for you, listing the pros and cons for each. Cash. The pros are that you have access to the money instantly, and it requires you to learn how to be confident when accepting money directly from people. Cons. It takes more time to physically take it to the bank. People often don't have physical cash on them, so getting it out can be out of the way for them, and there's also less of a paper trail should any dispute arise. Online bank deposit. The pros: quick access for people who have internet banking, and it leaves a record of what was paid or not paid. The con would be that some people may not have internet banking. To summarize, I would recommend using both approaches so that you can make it easy for students who prefer using electronic transactions and also have an option for students without online banking. Online merchant services such as PayPal are also worth looking into. Get a money box for storing cash payments, and be sure to have an online account for people who prefer to use internet banking. Sort that out this week and make sure people are aware of all the payment methods upon starting lessons with you. Payment deadlines. To ensure that things run smoothly, deadlines should be put in place for students, letting them know when and how payment is expected. Some teachers like to teach by school term, thus accepting payments in term blocks, whilst others prefer payment each week or fortnight. It is frustrating to have been chasing up students for payments that haven't been made. To avoid this, it pays to be clear on the way things work regarding payment instructions right from the start. For payment deadlines, you can be a little lenient with students who have proved themselves trustworthy, though guidelines of 1 week should still be in place, and payment before or at the start of a lesson is encouraged to avoid confusion. Decide on your payment policy. Are you going to ask students to pay each week, each fortnight, monthly, by term, or in 10-week blocks? Are you going to be strict with students, giving each person the same option for payments, or will you mix according to what is most practical for that person? What is the maximum number of days that a student can wait before paying if owing lesson money? Are you going to apply a penalty fee for late payments? Here's a helpful hint. In my later years of teaching, I treated my tuition like a gymnasium for guitarists. Gyms charge their client annual fees regardless of attendance. I decided that by charging my students weekly regardless of attendance, it would encourage the students to act with more responsibility and discipline, and it worked. Absences were at an all-time low, and as a result, the progress of each student was great too. Cancellations. Be clear from the start on your requirements regarding cancellation of lessons. If necessary, you can hand out a couple of reminder notices throughout the year. Whether or not you offer catch-up lessons is entirely up to you. Keep in mind that as you get busier, this can take up more of your time and energy, so you could consider offering catch-up lessons if you cancel, but not if a student cancels. Another option is to move a lesson, rather than add an extra half hour or hour to your work week, though again, it's up to you. The important thing is to be clear on what your policy is on catch-up lessons from the start. Having a student call at the last minute to say they won't be coming to their lesson is very frustrating, so having a 24-hour cancellation policy is advisable. You can ask for 1 week's notice, though this can be tricky for parents whose child may get sick or students who have to work extra hours. Having a clear cancellation policy will avoid disputes further down the line, and as mentioned in the previous exercises, charging regardless of attendance, similar to a gym membership, is an option as well. I strongly recommend having guidelines in place for permanent termination of lessons. Rather than having someone quit suddenly and leaving you without income, having a 4-week notice rule means that at least you have some time to organize filling that space with another client. Decide if you will offer catch-up lessons if a student misses a lesson, and be clear on how these work. Figure out your absence notice policy. How much notice do you need from a student if they are going to be away? Decide what will happen if you cancel a student's lesson, and figure out how much notice you need should a student decide to permanently cancel their lessons with you. Think about all of that I mentioned and write a draft cancellation policy. Paying tax. Tax is money taken from income by the government to help pay for the maintenance of the region's public facilities such as roads, parks, free swimming pools, and more. Whether or not this happens effectively is debatable, though I am not here to give an opinion on political or governmental systems. If you run a tuition business, tax will be requested, so it does pay to read the basics on the subject. There are different types of tax, and depending on the type of business you are running, your country, and your income, the amount of tax you are required to pay will vary accordingly. Generally, you will be operating as a sole trader, providing goods and services. If you research your tax responsibilities and are still confused, you can invest in the help of a professional accountant. There are many small business accountants and even entertainment accountants who specialize in helping musicians with their tax obligations. If you avoid paying tax, it can become an issue should you wish to travel or need to fill out official documentation. Getting used to putting aside a percentage of your income for tax from the start can mean that it doesn't become a major issue later on. Search online for your country's guidelines on paying tax. If you are unsure where to start, type Tax Department and then the name of your country. For example, Tax Department, Australia, Tax Department, Ireland. After researching the basics, write down what type of tax you have to pay and how it works, including percentages of income and profits that you have to pay. Check with the Citizens Advice Bureau to make sure that you have it right. Look into accountants in your area whose services you can use if need be. Make a budget. A simple definition of budget is a calculated estimate of income and expenditure for a set period of time. In other words, a budget is a table or graph showing how much income you will earn and what this money will be spent on. This in turn shows you how much you need to save, cut, or have left over after expenses. It is highly beneficial to have a budget, especially when starting out, because otherwise you can find yourself spending on little things here and there and have no money left after all of your hard work. By seeing where your money is going from an outside point of view, you can gain a better perspective on where you can improve your financial systems. This can mean having more money for recreation or for putting back into your business. Write down your current income and then list all of your weekly business expenses, for example, photocopying or rent. Also take note of which of these expenses are tax deductible. The good thing financially about teaching guitar is that a lot of these expenses are not regular occurrences. You do not need to buy guitar strings weekly, so these will be one-off or once-a-month expenses. List all of your expenses which are monthly. Examples would be strings, phone bill, rent, etc. Use the budget template provided to make a basic budget for your tuition business. You can also use a similar budget template for a music tour or album production. Note that it pays to be aware of basic accounting terms. The more that you understand, the less you will be confused or taken advantage of. Know the difference between operating expenses and overheads and understand basic terms such as fixed and variable expenses, GST or VAT, and net or gross profit. Value yourself. The inner game is most certainly as important as the outer game. After all, that's where it starts. If you do not value what you do, this will show in your energy and communication with other people and can cause them to put less value on their lessons. Successful teachers value what they do and charge accordingly. More importantly, valuing yourself gives you confidence to handle obstacles or conflicts that may occasionally arise. It helps you to stick to your guns when needed and enhances the student or client's perception that you are professional and that they can trust you. Unfortunately, valuing yourself can actually be one of the last things that people do. To help you, I have 3 exercises, all of which I have put into practice in my own life. The first is to listen to personal growth and self-development recordings regularly. I recommend listening to audiobooks by myself, Jack Canfield, Earl Nightingale, Les Brown, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer, Alan Watts, Lynn Grabhorn, and many others who motivate and provide inspiration. Naturally, you will like some more than others, so start with the author or speaker who you connect with the most. Listen daily to condition the mind rather than just once. Write down what you have done for your students. Often we forget just how many times we have made people happy by having given them a great lesson or have opened up opportunities for students to meet other musicians. If you don't have any students yet, you can list what you could do for them or what you would have had to overcome and persist with yourself to get to where you are with your playing. Do exercise 1 and 2 before going on to the next exercise. Exercise 3 is what I call your words do matter. Starting today, observe what you say about yourself and refrain from speaking about yourself negatively to other people. Have the courage to be positive about yourself. Benefits of charging more. To make a good amount of money is one of the most common desires for teachers, yet charging more is always a problem. Insecurity plays the biggest role in blocking one from charging a higher price for their services, yet doing so will come with many benefits. I will outline 2 of them for you. A higher price brings more income to invest back into the business. Even with a full roster of students, it would be hard to pay for rent and all other expenses, plus maintain professional presentation if you were only charging $10 for your lesson. Charging a higher price will allow you to purchase good quality strings and cables, and will give you a little extra in case you need an emergency guitar repair or amp repair. It will also give you a little more to invest in making your teaching environment feel nice, with better quality furniture and little extras such as tea and coffee for the waiting students. With a higher price comes more reliable students. Generally speaking, if you offer cheap lessons, you get more students who aren't that invested in what they are doing. You will always see more flaky attendance rate at seminars that are free because there is not as much invested as when someone has to pay a fair amount. Charging a higher price, although it might sound a little harsh, will bring you a better quality roster of students, which means that you will enjoy teaching more and have more energy to put into your lessons. Charge more and enjoy teaching those who really make their lessons a priority. One important thing to remember: whether or not someone says they can't afford lessons is not your problem. You can still write free advice columns for those that don't want to pay. You will not help anyone by being broke yourself. Write down all of the ways that you can think of in which charging more would help your tuition business. Decide now that you are going to raise your price and by how much. Raise your price. This exercise is for teachers whose price has been at the same level for 2 years or more. If you are going to run a tuition business on your own, you need to know that you are the one who decides the price. Be confident in communicating any changes in prices with students or whoever is paying for their lesson. You can provide a reason for the price change if you wish, but it's not necessary. You do not need to explain the change in price if you do not want to. For this exercise, there is simply one thing to do: raise your price. In the previous exercise, I asked you to think about the benefits of doing so and to write down your new price. Now, it's time to go through and do it. Raise your price this week. Type or write out and photocopy or print a letter for each student to let them know of the change and when the new lesson prices are to be implemented. You can give them a few weeks' notice to let them adjust financially if lessons are a part of their weekly budget. If you are teaching younger students, give the letter to their caregivers directly to avoid any confusion. I would also advise keeping a copy for yourself and noting down the date on which you sent the letter out. Where to spend or save. It can be easy to spend money in ineffective places, especially when it comes to advertising. You will learn a lot through trial and error and experience as to what works and doesn't work for your area. In saying that, there are some insider tips that I will give you to help you avoid spending money where you don't need to and becoming broke as a result. Keep track of what works. As you progress with your teaching business, you will see that certain things work better than others. Write down what you observe as time goes on so that you can avoid repeating the mistakes and work more with what brings results. Digital saves. Making CDs or other physical audio products for your student costs money. It can be a nice extra if you are making a good income, but if you are struggling or starting out, digital saves. You can let students use a streaming service or online video platform to listen to music, which can save you money and time. Make a list of changes you can make to digital to cut costs but still deliver just as good a service. Do not scrimp where money should be spent. You may think that this old chair will do, but putting money back into your business actually helps you. Have you seen those television shows where a professional comes in and helps a business get a makeover? Well, after the show, there's always great results because in the end, keeping maintenance in check and having professional presentation does make a big difference. Make sure that you put money into regularly having new sets of strings for your guitar and keep your amps and sound systems in good working order. Make sure that furniture is not broken. This week, try and view your teaching space from the point of view of a stranger. Often we don't notice little things that need fixed because we are busy teaching, but upgrade anything that needs a little repair this week and feel on top of things. Business accounts. An option that you might like to look into is to open a business account at your bank, separate from your personal account. Business accounts often have different tax or interest rates that can benefit your business growth, and it can help you to stay disciplined with your spending and saving should you have that separate account. You can also put limits on the account which prevent you from accessing the money too easily. Although this all depends on how you use your business income and what you want to do personally. For this exercise, simply contact your bank to inquire about business account options. Explain the stage that you are at in your business, even if you're at the very first stages, and they should be able to advise you on the best plan for you. Take some time this week to go back over your budget and make sure that you are developing the discipline to stick to what you intend for your spending and saving. Review the exercises in this chapter and follow up any questions that arise with some online research. Some sound advice. The last bit of advice I'll give you might seem unexpected, but it is just as important as anything else in this chapter. When you accept money from people, thank them sincerely. It is important to look people in the eye and graciously accept what they are giving you. I do not mean stare at them or make a big fuss. I just mean look them in the eye as you are taking money and be genuinely grateful about the exchange. After teaching for so many years every day, sometimes the money that you receive can be taken for granted, or you can just take it out of the student's hands without thinking about it, especially if you are uncomfortable in dealing with money. Money is simply an exchange of value. A long time ago it was rocks or gems, and then it was food or goods, then coins, then paper money, then credit cards. Now money's not even in physical form half the time. My point is that money is not so much the physical thing being handed to you, that might be paper or plastic. It's actually the value which that physical thing holds. So be aware that your student is handing that to you and be grateful every week for that exchange. Looking people in the eye when dealing with money helps your confidence and also strengthens their confidence in you. Be grateful for the little things and you'll be amazed at how much richer your life becomes.
Chapter 4. Getting more clients.
Make a contacts book. Building your list is a big part of most businesses. Your list is a collection of people and organizations you can contact when needed. This is usually either to call on for services or to send your latest news to in the form of a newsletter or press release. Let's talk about the first category. As a professional music teacher, you will require the services of others. It might be a guitar repairer, a luthier, or a signwriter, an instrument retailer, or even a business mentor. It makes sense to have a list of these contacts in one place that is easily accessible. You can go for the physical option and get a notebook, or simply write in name, description, and contact details on a piece of paper. You can also buy a business card folder to store business cards you receive from other people. Again, you might not want physical clutter. In this case, write the details onto a computer document or digital spreadsheet. Another option, although a bit outdated, is getting an address book to add contacts that way. It is a bit old-fashioned, but still works should you not have a computer. Buy a contact or address book. You should be able to pick one up relatively cheaply at your local bargain store. If you prefer digital, you can use your computer's contacts book, which is usually already installed. Purchase a business card storage folder. These are usually sold in the same stores as the address books. And lastly, add all of the contacts relating to your business into the address book and put all of your business cards in your new folder. Store somewhere close to your communications area where you make calls or write notes. Build your list. The growth of your business will come from interaction in the community, people talking about your tuition and seeing your business name around town or online. There are various ways to build your list, which we'll cover later in this chapter, but first I'd like to talk about making an email list, which is slightly different from a contacts book. With your email, you can make custom lists to send out to a large number of people at once. For example, you can make a list of your students' email addresses, and if you'd like to send out the same message to all of your students at once, you can use a list service to send the message out to all contacts with a click of your mouse. This is a massive help in terms of advertising a new service, product, or offer. It is also widely considered a must-have for musicians, so you might like to use it for your own music projects too. There are various email marketing platforms, but these may change as time goes on, so look at what is best in the current climate. Once you have added emails to your list, or made various lists if necessary, you can go over your business cards and add those details to the appropriate lists as well. Then, should you use an email list builder, you have the option to easily make a newsletter and distribute news to your clients or fans. The important thing after this, of course, is to build your list by adding contacts as soon as you connect with them. Read, listen to, or watch a tutorial on one of the email marketing platforms that I mentioned. Purchase the email list platform of your choice. Add the email addresses found in your business card folder and physical address book, and also any emails that would suit, which are already in your online email folders. One thing is important. It is always recommended to check with the person before adding their address, otherwise it might be seen as spam. Advertising. There are some common misconceptions about advertising, such as put an ad in the newspaper and a lot of people will see it. Well, this is not always the case, and having people seeing your ad does not automatically mean that they will call you. There are ways to create interest around your service. A big secret to growing your business locally is that you will actually get more clients through word of mouth than through spending money advertising in a newspaper. In all of my teaching years, I never needed to advertise in the paper, and one of the main reasons for that is because I put effort and passion into the core of my business, teaching. I listened to my students and developed a rapport with them. Due to this, word spread amongst students, and I ended up teaching the local shop owner's daughter, my doctor's son, my dentist, and even the son of a major radio station director. Here are some options for advertising platforms. Newspapers, internet, social media, television, radio, local shops and retailers, and schools. If you are starting, there are options that don't cost, such as advertising in the local school's notices or putting a sign or card up at the local supermarket's notice board. Research these options and get prices for each by contacting the services and asking. This week, advertise. Put aside a little each week if you can. Have you noticed that the large companies often advertise more? It's all about being in people's awareness. If you are broke, stick to your budget and use the free options. Remember what works. It is important to keep track of what works for you in terms of advertising and getting clients and what does not. The reason for this is because by looking back at what did or did not work, you can avoid repeating past mistakes and do more of whatever brought you those positive results. Just a couple of tips. From experience, I have found that internet beats newspapers and can also be better than radio. Advertising on radio is extremely expensive when comparing the number of plays your ad gets versus the number of times someone sees your ad in a publication. Visual ads often get more response because the person looking at the ad has more time to write down your contact details. If they are listening to the radio in the car, for example, the ad can be over before they can write down your number. Radio ads are more useful for larger businesses that already have a considerable following. Regardless of which option you choose, study the one that works. For example, if you found that an online social media campaign brought you the most clients, study what makes a good campaign. There are little tricks in marketing and advertising, such as opening with a question to raise interest. For example, would you love to learn the guitar but have always put it off? You can even go so far as to research fonts and colors. Many advertisers use 2 colors or 3 colors max and keep the font and color consistent between ads. See Chapter 1 again on branding. Note down what you did for the last exercise and what worked or felt better for you. Keep these notes safe, either in your What I Learned diary or a separate notebook. Add and refer to it when needed. Vouchers. Vouchers are a great way to entice new customers to give your services a try and can also be a nice thank you for clients currently enrolled with you. There are 3 main types of vouchers that I recommend trying in your business: lesson vouchers, free vouchers, and discount vouchers. Lesson vouchers are simply vouchers that you send or make printable for people who would like to purchase a set of lessons for a friend or family member. These are especially useful around Christmas time and can be sought after for birthday presents or a gift to say congratulations, so do make these available. You can tailor the voucher to suit each purchaser or have a template made up so that all the purchaser has to do is write their friend's name on the voucher. Here's a tip. Make sure that you put an expiry date on each voucher so that a student doesn't take a year to get around to having lessons with you when your schedule might have changed. Free vouchers are vouchers whereby you offer a free introductory lesson to gain new clients. You can also use vouchers to offer a free lesson to current students who have put in some extra effort. A tip for this one is that if you are offering a free lesson to current students, let them know that it is to be used as an extra lesson to their regular weekly lesson. This way you don't lose out on income to pay the rent. And lastly, discount vouchers can be used as an incentive for new clients to sign up to your lessons, though an even better use of these is to tie in with a musical retailer. So for example, you might set up a deal with a shop where they give your students a 10% discount on a set of strings. This brings the shop more customers through you, which means the shop in turn will be inclined to send more students your way. Make vouchers, one template for each voucher type, to use with your own students this week. Referrals. If you are a one-person band in terms of your teaching business, word of mouth is the way through which a lot of your potential clients will hear of you. You will find that some of your students, the ones who really invest energy and value your lessons, will naturally tell their friends to try lessons. They will also talk with people who might have a son or daughter who wishes to learn the guitar, so this is a nice reward for putting time and effort into your students' learning in the first place. You can encourage current students to ask their friends by offering a referral discount. What this means is that when a person becomes your client after your student told them about you, your student would get a free or discounted lesson. You can also set up a system where for every new student directed to you by a music instrument retailer, you will send that student to that retailer for strings and picks. This can happen organically anyway, but it can be beneficial to highlight this potential aspect of a working relationship to your local music retailer. Decide on a referral system. Will it be that new clients get a discount if they know a current student, or will it be that current students get a discount by bringing you new clients? After you have decided which way it will go, draw up some referral vouchers and hand them out at your weekly lessons. Look back at your notes from the previous exercise on what has and has not worked, and add the results and observations from the exercise above. Align with a music retailer. One of the rules of advertising is to advertise where the people are. If you want to sell ice cream, sell at the beach. If you want to sell fishing rods, the desert would not exactly be your first choice of where to sell. Now think, where do people go to find out about guitars? Guitar stores, of course. Big businesses work not just because they offer great value, but because they have systems in place to deliver that value. If you look at any major record label, there is not just the artist. They have a PR department, a promotions department, an A&R department, a marketing department, and more, all with systems in place to ensure that the machine is well oiled and can keep running. It can help to have systems in small businesses too, whether it be in how you file records or how you advertise. A big shortcut is to get into a successful system that is already in place, such as that of a music instrument retailer. Ways to align with a retailer. Drop off business cards for the staff to give to customers who are looking for guitar lessons. The music retailer can provide you with discount vouchers for their products to give to your students. This will get your students to buy from the shop, which is more business for them, and in return the staff members will be more inclined to send business your way too. Your local music instrument retailer can sponsor a live event that you hold to raise awareness of your business. You can provide vouchers for discounted or free introductory lessons with every packet of strings sold. Do what you can of the above this week, and keep these in mind for later. Putting on an event. Live events have always been a platform for promotion as well as entertainment. The performing artist usually mentions their new album or website, and you can use a live event to promote your teaching business too. It is wise to remember to utilize what you already have: music. Here are some types of events that you can do: community concerts, public recitals, workshops or clinics, guest appearances, and expos or conferences. Here are some ideas for promoting your business at those events. Have a banner with your business name for the public to see. Have a sign-up book for people interested in getting lessons. Use a workshop as a place to exchange business cards and details. For every ticket sold for a friend's band's show, You can include a discount for an introductory lesson. Set up at a music or small business exhibition to not only promote your business, but network with other like-minded people and business owners who you might work with in the future. Really, the sky's the limit with regards to putting on events to promote your teaching business. You can start a festival with a multi-act lineup, or even include promotion of your business as you tour the country. Here's another exercise for you. Write down all of the ideas you can think of when it comes to holding an event to promote your business. Keep a list of annual events already in place, such as regular music festivals, where you might be able to be included in the day. Here are some things to add to your event checklist. Note that this checklist is directed towards holding seminars and workshops, but the ideas can be applied to any type of live event. See my Great Guitar Recital article for more ideas. 1. Define your goal. Other than a standing ovation before they walk out, what is your goal? Write in your answers to the following, and remember there's no right or wrong answer. These will be custom to your event. The goal for your attendees is it to achieve something, to feel something? What does success look like from the point of view of the attendee? And the goal for you is, how will you consider it a successful event? You can share your goals with attendees at the beginning of the event. Open with the above and see how you will separate the seminar workshop throughout the day. What are the key concepts that you will take people through? How much interaction are you going to have at the event, and what will it be? Is it going to be a card exercise? Or role-playing? Mixing with other students? Or perhaps some hot seats where people share their situation as parts of an example? Have a tight timeline for your event, and include where speakers or acts begin, as well as ends to sections and breaks. It's your choice whether or not to give that to the attendees. Playing at a student's school. Opportunities to gain clients can often come through your students. Older students can have workplaces that need live music for a function, and students sometimes need someone to back them up in an exam. Who better than their teacher to provide a rhythm track? Helping your students by performing live with them in an exam not only gives them a memory that they can cherish for a lifetime, but also gives you a good chance to raise interest in your teaching. Other students in their class might just ask their parents for lessons with you, and it may even lead to opportunities for working with the school or alongside the school's music teacher on other projects. Of course, you can always do a one-off performance at your student's school anyway, which is a great way to keep the rust from your live playing. The school notice board and newsletter is also a very effective place to advertise for new students, and often at no charge. Note that playing at a school is an excellent opportunity to promote any live events that you are holding. List local schools and, if possible, the head of department for music at each respective school. Contact each school and place an ad for your teaching services in the school's newsletter. Reach out to the music teachers if appropriate and inquire about itinerant tuition or guest lessons at the school. And find out early in the year if any of your students have music exams. Write down where you can help them with this. See if there are some opportunities for you to play at this school and promote your tuition business. Sponsor an event. Sponsoring an event is a nice way to contribute to your community and simultaneously promote your business. You might feel that you don't have enough money to sponsor an event, but sponsorship is not always in the form of money. You can donate a free lesson, which might just give you a new pupil after the recipient has had a lesson with you. Further opportunities can come from sponsorship. I sponsored a local talent show and as a result was later offered a relatively large amount of money for 5 group lessons. So establishing connections through sponsoring an event can work out really well, provided that you have your heart in the right place and you use a bit of initiative. List 5 local arts centres, educational institutions or creative organisations where you could potentially get involved with sponsorship. It might be with money, but you should also look into donating with time or services. Write down some ways of leveraging these possible situations to create more opportunity for business. An example would be that an entrant wins a lesson with you, so you ask for a testimonial from the contest organiser and ask to do a workshop with them. After doing all of the above, make it a goal to sponsor a specific event this year and engage in conversation with an organization now if this is an option already. Don't forget to send them your logo that you created in Chapter 1. How to make a one-sheet. Using the platforms of radio and television can certainly be a help to your career, though please keep in mind that it's not the be-all and end-all, and there are many examples of people who have made a television appearance on major networks without fully making the most of the opportunity. One of the big secrets of radio and television is that programmers and producers are actually looking for guests and story ideas. A one-sheet is simply one sheet of paper, electronic or physical, that describes what it is you do and suggests some angles for your possible appearances on radio or television. A one-sheet should contain a short bio of 2 to 3 paragraphs, a clear professional quality picture of you, some ideas for the theme of your interview, and perhaps a picture of your latest product or album if you have one. You can also include any logos of shows that you've been on previously, and you should always include your contact details. As an exercise, make your one sheet. Have a look online for examples. Take care to make it look professional, and if you need to get someone's help using Photoshop or a similar graphics program, then do so. This is a fantastic resource which can open many doors for you to promote your business, so do not skip this step. Getting on radio. You can get on radio through advertising, of course, though paying for an advertisement can be costly and ineffective, especially if you are just starting out and don't already have a known business. There is a better way to promote your teaching business on the radio, and it's actually free. See, the trick to getting on radio or TV, apart from paying for spots like the big businesses, is to give the station something of value to give away. The reason for this is because the station ultimately wants more listeners, which encourages more paid advertising with big companies, and this is done through word of mouth. The way that word of mouth happens is to give things away to listeners to get those listeners excited and talking about the radio station with their friends. As a teacher of the guitar, you will be seen as an expert in your field. You can use your one sheet to propose an interview with the station about a guitar-related topic and then give away an album, or even better, some free lessons. You might think that this costs you money, but it promotes your business, gives you a recording of a radio interview that you can use on your website, and can generate new clients, bringing you continuing income. The big insider's secret, along with knowing to give something away, is to contact the right person at the station. Do not just phone reception, that won't get you anywhere. Find out who best to contact. For smaller regional stations, it can be the host directly, though for larger shows, especially if you are trying to get the music played, it's the program director. Make sure that you remember this, otherwise you will waste a lot of energy. Make a list of 3 or more smaller radio stations and their program directors. You might like to find out who is best to contact via their website. Use your one sheet and contact the program directors at each station, asking if they would like an interview and that you could give a lesson package away. You might get some rejections, but one yes can be worth it. Getting on television. Television can actually be easier to get on than radio at times. Again, there are various ways to approach getting a TV appearance, so in the end it comes down to assessing each situation for what it needs and having the courage to put yourself out there, whilst understanding that rejection does happen. Again, you will need to contact the right person at the station. For radio, it's usually the program director. For TV, however, it is usually the producer. Sometimes it may be the assistant producer or even the executive producer. Usually a quick check on the website or even an inquiry to any of the producers can help with this. If you are still not sure, there is nothing wrong with emailing the show's producer to actually ask who to contact. Remember that they are looking for stories, so suggesting a story or angle for an interview is a good idea. There are also a couple more tips I will give you. Tie into a recent current event, bust some myths, or think of a few how-tos for viewers at home. Another massive insider's tip I can give you is to hire a media coach. Often they have already worked in television for some years and have strong working relationships with people in the television and radio industries. List local shows where your tuition business may be a good fit. It doesn't have to be about the business itself. In fact, you are more likely to get on a show by helping viewers with knowledge or giving a performance. Write down what you could use as a free giveaway on the show. Hire a media coach to help you get on a show of your choice. And use your one sheet to contact producers from your list so you can be on their show. Chapter 5. Professionalism. Steve Harrison, marketing guru behind books such as Chicken Soup for the Soul and Rich Dad Poor Dad, taught me a valuable lesson at a seminar of his I attended in the States. When talking about the need to view yourself as an expert, he gave an example of a brain surgeon. The brain surgeon, when talking with parents of a patient, would not say, "Well, I haven't operated on anyone before, but I'll have a try at helping your child, and then I'll be a brain surgeon." He or she would simply use their training and knowledge to do what they needed to do as a brain surgeon. The point to this is that they would label themselves a brain surgeon before actually operating, and that is the important step, to identify yourself as a teacher or professional teacher first before you start. Do not write a book and then call yourself an author. Call yourself an author and then write that book. Label yourself as a guitar teacher first before you have students. This is part of creating the reality. Getting business cards printed with your name on it and the words guitar teacher next to it is an example of your inner dialogue expressing itself physically. Once you have labeled yourself as a guitar teacher, it is most important to let people know, should they ask, that you are a great teacher. Do not say that you are bad or okay. This will become your reality. Have the confidence to say that you are good at what you do. Applying this simple idea has the potential to make a massive difference in your life and career. Your only exercise now is to say that you are good at playing the guitar or teaching if someone asks. Make sure that you know that you are good and that you also really believe it. See my free confidence course on my website for more help with auto-suggestion and turning around the way in which you talk about yourself. Your appearance. Whether you like it or not, people who are coming into your teaching space will judge you on your appearance. They will see you and have a perception of you based on what they first see, hear, or experience. This judgment will not necessarily be bad or strong, but I guarantee that the appearance of both yourself and your teaching space does affect first impressions. I am against changing the core of who you are or what you are about to align with an image that you don't like or believe in. However, I am all for making small changes if it does help to make you feel better about your teaching practice. As mentioned earlier, there are ways to feel more professional in the ways that you present your space, and it also pays to be reasonably tidy for teaching. So for example, if you spill dinner on your shirt, change your shirt before teaching. This week, use a little of your teaching money to buy new clothes and see how it makes you feel. I'm not saying you need to wear new clothes. You might have a favorite pair of old jeans or faded band t-shirt, but just try it and be aware of how you feel wearing your new clothes for teaching professionally. If it does make you feel good, then this is something to consider, and no doubt it will give you a professional look. Go back over the early exercises and presentation of your teaching space and tidy up your work area. Regularly clean your teaching space and notice how it helps to make you feel more organized and professional. Note that some of the greatest teachers in the world wore just a toga, so I'm not implying that you should depend on buying new clothes to feel good. Staying professional and organized in your appearance and presentation does make a massive difference in the eye of your customer, who is ultimately the one contributing to paying your rent for the week, so do keep this in mind. Dealing with situations. More often than not, you will find yourself in the role of mediator between parents and children who disagree on all things practice related. A very common example of this is the parent who says that their child is more interested in video games than practicing the guitar. There are too many other examples of challenging situations to go through everyone in detail, but as the above example is perhaps the most common, I will talk about how I approach this issue in my own teaching. Rather than simply siding with the parent or ignoring the situation, I asked both the parent and the young student in together to see me. I presented the current situation and highlighted the need for an outcome where both parties understood each other's points of view and could work with each other to come up with a positive outcome. In this case, the student's parent had said that the student did the same thing when they tried to give them basketball lessons and cricket lessons. I picked up a piece of paper and drew a basketball on the left side of the page. I then drew a gaming console on the right side of the page and put a big X through the basketball. Underneath, I drew a cricket bat on the left side of the page and then drew a gaming console again on the right side of the page. I put a big X through the cricket bat. I then did the same for the guitar. Now what was there each time? The gaming console. The student was playing games because it was there. If it wasn't bought for him in the first place, the student would have more inclination to pick up the guitar. This was a big wake-up call for both the parent and the student, who was keen to practice but felt it easier to play the games. We came up with a solution in which the student was happy to have access to games restricted, and as a result the practice picked up and the parent was happy too. When dealing with situations, you need to remember that you have the most experience in your opinion, but showing your experience is not the purpose. The purpose is to come up with a positive solution for all involved. Today, write down any current situations you are facing with students and a possible solution for each. Little touches. If you have read Use Your Buzz to Play the Guitar, you will know that I think that the little things are the big things. In the way that you teach, the little touches make a big difference too. Just taking a little bit of extra care and attention to detail is appreciated by students and those who wait in your teaching space or area. Here are some examples of little touches that can make a positive experience for clients and their friends or family members. Rather than having a raggedy old notice on a desk, print any announcements or notices nicely and purchase a document stand to present information in a professional way. Set up a tea or coffee station in the waiting room. Clean it regularly and have a full supply of tea, coffee and sugar. Have magazines in the waiting room for people to read. Be sure to update once per month or even fortnightly. Revisit opportunities to offer discounts or free samples to your students from those local music retailers. Compliment your students sincerely on their efforts. They will already be well aware of their shortcomings, and a little sincere praise goes a long way. As an exercise, go over those things I mentioned and apply to your teaching business. Write down some other little touches that you can implement to make your lessons a quality, professional experience for your students. Stick to what you say. As an effective teacher, there is no room for you to be flaky. If you have set conditions in your policy, weekly payment expected regardless of attendance, for example, you will need to stick to these conditions, otherwise you may find them challenged. A lack of discipline in sticking to your word can also bring about a lack of discipline in your students. It can be tricky to remind students of an overdue payment or to ask for compensation should an item come back to you damaged. But this is when integrity and confidence is needed the most. If you lose the ability to be firm in these situations, and note that you can be firm and friendly at the same time, this can cost you your business and can make you feel less than your students or their parents, which is not the state that you should be in. Some examples of when you will need to stick to your word are when a parent is being slack with their child's attendance or their payments, when a student is being lazy with practice, when you need to provide catch-up lessons or owe change for a lesson payment, and when set conditions are outlined. Add some examples to that list and write down how you will deal with each. Consider any exceptions for, say, severe illness and what you would do in those situations as well. Once written, read over your notes and adjust your cancellation policy from Chapter 3 if necessary. Be very clear on your conditions and how you will address these issues. Preparation is key, and you need to know and remember your terms and conditions thoroughly. Be punctual. Lead by example, a strong, positive example for your students. Always be on time for your students' lessons, and if you are not, offer to give them some extra time either at the end of their lesson or if another student is arriving afterwards, make it for a time that suits both of you without interfering with the following student's lesson. Being punctual and acting professionally will send a message to your students that you do this for a living and lessons are to be valued. Occasionally, there will be students who will be a little late or lazy, though you can imagine how much worse it would be if it was you that was late or lazy. I strongly recommend educating yourself a little on the subject of time management. You can start by using a time management diary, and even going back to basics by utilizing a calendar, either digital or physical. There are many more tips and tricks that you can learn which will help you to feel that you have more free time and to make better use of the time that you do have. Have a look into my course and writings on time management for musicians. This will help you enormously in your business and your life as well. And lastly, practice being on time this week in all meetings that you have. Answer honestly. One of the worst things that you can do as a teacher is to try and teach something physically that is way too advanced for you to do at that moment. Yes, you should aim high, just as you would expect from your students, but trying to pretend that you are a classical master in a moment when you are not will lead to a shaky performance and will not go down well with the student. This is common with new teachers who are teaching advanced students. There is a fear that the student will get better than them, but that would actually be a positive thing. If a student asks you to play something that you aren't able to learn in a few weeks, or asks you a question that you don't know the answer to, respond with, "I'm not sure, but let's find out." You don't have to know everything as a teacher, and saying that you do not know the answer to one question out of 100 does not automatically make you a bad teacher. Your honesty will be appreciated by your student, and provided that you are good at what you do, they will still think that you are great, though remember, boosting your own ego is not the point of teaching. If a student advances past you in terms of their physical skills, you must make the choice whether to recommend they find a more advanced teacher, or you might like to adjust to more of a coaching role, whereby you can still advance the student's skills by getting them to ask questions and guide them on various projects or aspects of being a guitar player. The best sports teams in the world have coaches, though the coaches aren't necessarily as skilled physically as the team.
List some questions that would make you nervous if you were asked, and find out the answers to them.
Practice your results to those questions physically on the guitar if possible, and make some exercises from your findings. You can give these exercises to your students and use them creatively in your own playing. Maintenance. It is beneficial to maintain your equipment to a high standard. Get a new set of strings regularly and make sure leads and cables don't crackle. Comfortable furniture is a must, and keep an eye out for wear and tear. It may seem like spending money on such things is a bit much, but it actually has a reverse effect in most cases. The professional presentation and operation of your business has a positive effect on the perceptions of your clients, and it will help your business to stay healthy. You don't need to go out and blow money on the flashiest gear, but spending some of what you earn on making sure that you have new strings and equipment in working order is money that is not wasted. Do a checklist of your equipment and teaching items. From the tiniest things such as pens and sticky notes to the bigger things like your computer and furniture. Place a tick next to anything that is in good order and a cross next to anything that needs to be repaired or replaced. Ensure this week that you replace what you can of the things that need to be replaced, and sort out anything that needs to be repaired. Once everything is rejuvenated, you can do a check each month or bi-monthly. Chapter 6. Social Media and the Internet. Have a great website. It almost goes without saying that you should have a really good website for your tuition business. An effective website can act as a business card, electronic press kit, and business generator all in one. There are many platforms and options when it comes to which services to employ in building your website, So the best thing that you can do is to research these options yourself. Search online for best websites for teaching music or similar, and you will start to see common recommendations. I won't give you a recommendation specifically, as it will be good for you to search yourself. However, I will say that you should do a little study on the topics of domain names, web hosting, and URLs. A domain name is the main name of your website and is acquired by purchase. It is worth spending a little in getting a .com that is easy to remember, avoiding the extra words or numbers that come attached to the free domain names. Web hosting is a service that you pay for, essentially buying space on the internet that you can rent for your site. Often it is run by the service you will use to build your website. Again, it's a matter of doing a little research and employing a professional website developer if needed. Even if you hire a professional, I still recommend doing a little reading about these topics so you are aware of standard practices and prices for web development. A URL is the web address you can see in the search bar as you click on single pages of your website. For example, if you go to the images page of a site, the address in the search bar might read johnsmith.com/images. Please do a little research before you move on with your site. Have an understanding of what I just mentioned and start to write down what you need to do this month to get a new website made or to upgrade your existing website. Helpful website tips. When building a website, it can be overwhelming trying to fit in teaching and practicing your own music at the same time as trying to figure out if your website includes the right details. It can be daunting, so here is some advice taken from first-hand experience in the trials and errors that I have experienced with making effective websites both for my music and my teaching. Use this website checklist to tick off each of these as you complete. Your domain name. You can choose your name if you would like to, or if you plan to sell your business in the future, you can choose another name. Often the best names for branding are simple. Think Apple or Virgin. It is harder to on-sell a business that is called after your own name, though it is all up to your own desires. A simple URL for each page. Keeping URLs simple, such as ryankershaw.com/workshops, means that it will not only look more professional in the search bar, but it will also read easier in the advertisements and social media campaigns. Up-to-date photos and info. Have clear, clean, high-quality photos on your teaching website and avoid generic stock images. Keep the photos recent, unless highlighting past achievements, otherwise your site will look dated. When less is more. It pays to regularly check your various online platforms and remove old information or photos that are no longer relevant. Remove or change expired email addresses, fix or take away broken links, and remove old offers and images that make your website look less professional. More website advice. Examples of students learning in progress. There is nothing like seeing it with one's own eyes to really have potential students get it. It will make a world of difference to those interested in your lessons if they can see for themselves the progress that your students have made. So keep those photo booth examples and movie demos that you started in Chapter 2 and use the best ones for your site. Include your logo and/or tagline. By now, you will be getting a clearer picture of how the things that you learned earlier in this course and book are important as you go along. Now is the time to bring both your logo and your tagline that you developed in Chapter 1 into your marketing. Having a consistent feel and theme will breed familiarity with your student, as I said before, and it will have a strong, positive outcome for your business and professionalism. Add logos of shows that you have been on. Do you remember growing up and seeing the logos of your favorite instrument brands associated with your heroes in music? If you have appeared on any television or radio program since studying media appearances in Chapter 4, add the logos of each show to your site. Have an amazing sample of your playing. This can be tempting to avoid for fear of narrowing your appeal to a wide variety of people, but remember that it can be good for you to appeal to a specific style or genre or even a type of person. Often teachers forget to show their students how they can play well, and this can actually lead to the student questioning the teacher's ability. It is not a must to feature your own playing, but it can be a good idea. Generating business. All of the previous tips for building a successful website will help to bring you more business. There are a couple of valuable things that actually have the potential to see you create more money directly. Advertising. Have you been to the Guitar Tab or Notation websites and noticed the advertising on their site for other companies' products or services? This option can allow you to receive a little extra money to keep your business running. Contact page. It may seem obvious, but it is extra important to have an easy-to-use contact page. You can simply write your contact details in, with a preferred time of contact if you wish, or you can incorporate a contact form. For a more professional appearance, use a custom email address, such as info@specificguitarlessons.com, rather than a Hotmail or Gmail account. Email opt-in. I told you about creating an email list in Chapter 4. Use a mail service provider to put that on your site by using a sign-up form generator. Having a sign-up form where people can opt in using their email means that you can capture those email addresses and build your list. Squeeze page. A squeeze page is a page dedicated to capturing that email in return for a free book or newsletter or something of similar value. You might like to go with a small email opt-in box as mentioned before, or use a squeeze page. You can also look into pop-up squeeze pages. These are effective but can be annoying for the person using the website. Do a little research into best practices for this and look into extras such as landing pages. Use a professional to link your email list and autoresponders with your website if you need help. Get testimonials. Having backup from others in the industry or from clients can be the thing that triggers a person to contact you for lessons. If they can see that your students are happy with your teaching, it can convert them from a "maybe I will choose this teacher" to a "this teacher sounds great." I gather testimonials from my students and industry professionals I work with or help out. You can see these on my site and in my books. It's really just a matter of asking. You can even suggest a template or specific angle if you wish. So for example, you might want to teach more improvisation. In that case, you would ask for a student who has a great improvisation demo that you have recorded, or you can simply ask the student to highlight their improvisation progress in the testimonial. Write down a list of students who have made brilliant progress, or even those who just love your lessons. Also write down a list of industry professionals who might be able to help and provide you with a testimonial. A second step, and this step is crucial, is to actually get in touch with them. Do not hesitate. Send a friendly, to-the-point email to these potential testimonial providers. State your reason for the testimonial. So for example, you could say, "I'm currently upgrading my teaching website and would love a testimonial from you." You can then say why you picked them if you wish, and then just ask if they would mind providing a testimonial for you and sending it through this week. Social media ads. From the time you first read this book to the second time you pick it up or listen to this audiobook recording, social media will have changed. New sites are constantly being made, and old sites are taken down all of the time. For that reason, take this information and apply it to the sites that work for you. Schedule your updates and posts. For a business page, you usually have the option of scheduling your posts. This means that you can make better use of your time by creating the weekly posts all at once and posting then, rather than being back and forth throughout the week making ads. Use paid, sponsored ads or advertising for a bigger reach. A small investment will see your message get through to a bigger audience. Use the money wisely and sponsor the posts that can generate a positive outcome for your business as well as other people. Rather than putting money into a big ad that only says who you are, Invest instead into advertisements that encourage purchase of a product or an opt-in of email details. Read a little about social media campaigns. A great description. In social media ads, make sure that the description in the text box is dynamic and easy to read. The little touches all count. A relevant picture. A picture speaks 1,000 words. Make sure the picture is of good quality and is related to your post. A picture of a guitar is going to generate more clicks than a picture of your face in most cases, so direct potential clients to your posts with a great picture that would grab their interest at first glance. Go over the ideas mentioned and apply each to your teaching business page. Delve into further research online to maximize effectiveness with your posts. When to post. I have given when to post its own page in the book because one can waste a lot of time and energy by posting at ineffective times. There are certain tips and tricks that social media marketing professionals use, and I will outline a few of them here for you. Use analytics to post at peak times. Look for the Insights tab on your business page. This will give you the analytics, the traffic overview and statistics for your page, including where your visitors are viewing from and what type of posts are doing the best for you. If you keep track of what works and what doesn't work, you can build more effective systems and create a snowball effect, growing your audience without too much struggle as you learn more yourself. Post when you have something new. As with live music performances, it's a great idea to announce when you have a new product or service. This is a little more interesting to the audience and will give you obvious ideas for your content. Keep in the awareness. Think back to Chapter 1 in branding. The bigger brands do not stop advertising. In fact, they advertise more. If you never post, you will not be seen.
Stay in people's minds by being an active presence, whether it's actually you that's posting or not.
Whether it's actually you that is posting or not. Use scheduling and look at getting a friend or family member who is able to use social media to help you with keeping your business in the public eye. Newsjack. Have you ever noticed that news headlines are based around events that are just that, news? If a guitarist has been in the news for, say, tendinitis, you might like to post a 5 ways to prevent tendinitis column. There is no shortage of news and current affairs to be aware of, so keep an eye out for festivals, artist news, or music-related ideas that you could comment on or make a post around. Share with big pages. One share from a page with a massive following can put your post out to many more interested people than your startup site. Getting those with a big reach to post your news can be tricky, but it's not impossible. I would not recommend trying to make a viral video. Viral videos are often a result of good fortune, a hidden marketing budget, and either a quirky comedic aspect that won't necessarily suit your business or a highly emotional tug at the heartstrings. Instead, start with growing and applying your knowledge of how to build a following effectively. Find 5 big pages with a following of 60,000 or more. Make sure that they are relevant to your business and that the style or attitude of the page fits in with you. Think about why you're contacting them. Write down your reason for contacting the page and assess whether it's something that the page would be interested in sharing.
It can be a matter of being brutally honest and simply saying something like, "I'm starting out and would like to reach a larger audience. I follow your page and wondered if you would mind helping with a share of my post or video."
Think of what you can do for them. If you are sincere, you will most likely be happy to help the other person's page too. What can you do for them that would help their page or business? There are people behind the page. All too often, people forget that big pages and big services out there have people behind those things, just like you and me. Address them by name and, where possible, be courteous and genuine. There is no need to be hesitant or to be expectant. Just reach out nicely. Write your results for each of those questions and get in touch with those pages. Online lessons. There are many websites you can use that not only provide you with knowledge, but also give you a platform on which to upload tuition videos or courses. A quick online search will direct you to these places. There are too many to mention here, so rather than list sites, I will talk a little about another way to use the internet to your benefit. Skype lessons. Having the ability to teach students from all over the world is a huge benefit and time saver. You can teach a student in India from a living room in England. It's amazing. It's easy to dismiss a technology in its early stages, but the silly stigma that Skype lessons may have had in the past is slowly changing, and people are starting to realize that they can learn from the comfort of their own home. Record the lessons. Getting a video call recorder is a great investment for your lessons and for yourself. The student can record lessons to make it easier for revision at home, and you can record lessons to keep a record of any negotiations or discussions that have taken place. You can also, with the student's permission, use a snippet of a recorded lesson as a demo on your website. Hangouts. Although not quite as popular, Google Hangouts has been used by world-class guitarists to teach multiple students at once. Replays can also be offered, and you can upload your Hangout to the internet. Here are some exercises for you for this chapter. Install a Skype or similar video call service. Purchase a call recorder, such as Ecamm, and advertise your Skype lessons. Even if you prefer teaching from home, try to enroll 1 or 2 Skype students to gain experience in teaching over the internet. Chapter 7. Common Problems. Learn from difficult students. You will face challenges as a music teacher. It just goes with the territory. The best thing you can do is learn from them. Your more challenging students, who possibly suffer from a poor attitude, provide you with an opportunity to grow your patience, which is one of the most essential traits to develop when teaching music. Perhaps even more helpful, although a little harder to apply, is that they give you a chance to be brutally honest with your own teaching and see if there are any areas in which you could improve. It is essential that you are firm in your confidence. Don't let a student with a bad attitude have you feel inferior, but if that does happen, question why. You might find that the questions you ask yourself can lead you to adapt your approach and become a more versatile teacher. By listening to and observing your challenging student without harsh judgment, you can also become better at reading what a student is saying through their body language and subtle suggestion. Here's an exercise. Write down the names of your students who are difficult to interact with and list some ways in which you might be able to change your approach to inspire them into action. Answer the following questions and spend good time on them. What questions could you ask yourself and your student to encourage open communication and a change in attitude? What books or recorded shows can you show your student to help shift their thinking? Is continuing to struggle with the student damaging your enthusiasm for teaching? Do you need to suggest that your student leave lessons? Fear of advanced students. It can feel scary for some teachers when their students start to progress in a skill level past the teacher. Legitimate concerns arise, such as, what will I teach them now? I will lose a client and money if they stop. And they won't think I'm as good at teaching. These are all simply fears and thinking, and your perceptions can be shifted. There are 2 different actions I recommend taking if a student looks as though they will pass you in skill level. The first action is one that unfortunately is not taken by enough teachers, and that is to recommend another teacher. Recommending another teacher who can help your student at their new level is a noble decision and will do more to help your student than nervously trying to teach them things that you can't play. The student will not automatically think that you are a bad teacher, especially if you have taught them well, and will actually look at you with more respect as they advance to a professional or teaching stage themselves. The second action you can take is to go into more of a coaching role, where you act as an accountability partner for the student's weekly practice. Rather than you demonstrating everything, you can set tasks for the student that still challenge them, and you can also incorporate things like recording techniques or music industry studies. This will depend on the student's desires for learning, though some find it an interesting change. As I've said before, the coaches of the best sports teams in the world can't physically do what the players on the team do, but they know how to get the most out of the players and set appropriate tasks for the team. List any of your students who might be getting into this type of stage and think about how you could create exercises to help them. Are there any areas of study you could incorporate, or do you need to suggest that they move on? Remember to relax when you are teaching advanced students. Self-doubt can lead to a poor performance, so drop your worry of the student appearing better than you and instead focus on how you can best help your student. Poor attendance. This problem is as old as guitar teaching itself. There are so many reasons personal to each student as to why they may or may not be attending classes. Sometimes it's through an unreliable family member responsible for helping with travel to lessons, and other times it might be through a lack of effort on the student's part. One thing is for certain, it's frustrating and it can hinder your enthusiasm for teaching, which in turn can damage your business. Attendance issues need to be addressed as soon as they appear. It can feel appropriate to scold the student or to highlight the serious effects of not turning up, but I encourage you to take another approach first. Communicate openly and honestly with the student about why their attendance is poor and listen to them. Let them know that you are not judging them harshly, but that you do want to help them. Being open like this will, in most circumstances, bring out the real issue, and from there you can fix it together. Of course, this is not always the case, and there will be times where you need to be firm and even let the student know that poor attendance will result in their lessons being stopped permanently. Write down all of the classic excuses for lack of attendance and in a separate column for lack of practice. List the best ways that you can address each issue, and this will help you for when these problems do arise. The most important thing to do is to actually address the issues with your students. Many teachers carry on with deteriorating student-teacher relationships because they procrastinate on tackling these things. Address issues that need to be addressed this week. Keep yourself in check. Have you been a bit slack with praise for your students' good effort? Are there things you might be doing or might not be doing which affect your students' attendance or practice? Prejudice. Unfortunately in life, people tend to judge harshly that which they can't understand. As a teacher, you will be judged on your appearance. Not always negatively, but people will always have a first impression of you without knowing you. Depending on their habitual thinking and past experiences, this can be positive or negative. A common prejudice I found as a teacher was based on age. I started teaching at quite a young age, so I was always hearing comments from students like, "Oh, I was listening to that before you were even born," which in itself might not sound negative, but the tone of the remark left me with no doubt that I would have to be patient and demonstrate that I had enough experience to teach well. The important thing to remember is that in this case, whether you are getting judged for being too young or too old, don't feel insecure about it. Feeling insecure only affects your teaching in a negative way. Just be confident and share some knowledge with them that interests them and shows them that you are experienced and can help them if they are open to it. The more you fear cultures that are different to you, the more you are limiting your ability to inspire and help people. Being open to clients from all walks of life will enrich you as a person and strengthen your teaching skills. Write down 2 prejudices that you have encountered and list how you can deal with them in a professional manner that helps everyone concerned. Research guitarists of 10 different cultures and consider using them as an example for students who may feel that their culture is not represented in music. Practice having compassion for ignorance from students. Exercise your abilities to educate to eliminate that ignorance. Writing lists is good, but you must do it. Interfering parents. There is the old saying that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. While some parents are great supporters of their child's education, there are also some that can try to become involved too much to the point of restricting the child's learning. If you find that the parents of a student want to sit in and comment on every lesson, you need to address this issue confidently and immediately. Of course, there are exceptions. If the student likes their parent with them, and the parent lets the child try things on their own, then you can judge how things are. However, if you find that the parent is distracting the child or not letting them speak, I would address this issue with the parent. I have done this over the years and would suggest to the parent that a few lessons with the student one-on-one would be great for the child's independence, because it is. If the student is very young, you can start by having the parent wait in the waiting room if you have one. Another idea is for the parent to go for a drive or a walk around the block while you are teaching. Sometimes the parents enjoy the break. You will have to be the judge for each situation, and there are always exceptions or special circumstances. It should be a priority, though, that you are confident and punctual in addressing any issues that need to be addressed. Remember, the child's learning is most important. Make a commitment this week to talk to parents who might be a distraction in their child's lesson. Address the issue and remember how you do it for next time should a similar situation arise. My uncle says I. Something that pops up from time to time, which can be quite annoying at first, is having your student tell you that their friend or family member does it a different way. They then proceed to show you how Uncle Billy said that you were wrong about smoke on the water, and he plays it with one string starting on an A note. To a beginner guitarist, in their eyes, their friend or family member that plays is probably an influence on them, and in turn a demigod. Do not try to alter this opinion, but simply explain that it's beneficial to be open to instruction from a professional. After explaining that you have taught this before, show them the track being played along with the music, and if necessary, any points demonstrating why Uncle Billy's version just doesn't sound quite as good. Don't knock Uncle Billy, just let the student know that your version sounds good and that it might be a little more professional. Funnily enough, this is also a good opportunity to show how a riff or ostinato can be played at various places on the fretboard. Occasionally, you might encounter an older relative who never got lessons and is against the idea. I usually enjoyed it when a student told me this, as I knew I had a chance to change the relative's thinking and show them that lessons can be fun and positive. It is not always the person's fault if they dislike lessons. They could very well have had a negative experience when they were younger. If you have a student who is letting you know of a friend or relative who says to do things differently, get that friend or relative in this week for a jam at your student's lesson. This can be beneficial for everyone involved, and as long as you approach it in a professional way, with the best interest of the student and friend at heart, you could even get a new student out of it. Students feeling inferior. Hey, it happens to us all. Compassion is the thing that will see you ease your students' insecurity when they relate themselves to another guitarist. There is one more thing that needs to be highlighted: logic. In 9 cases out of 10, an unhappy guitarist will feel inferior because they are comparing their skills to someone else who has played for many more years or practices more often. If a student is feeling inferior but doesn't practice much, you need to do 2 things. Highlight the fact that more practice is needed and help to remedy the issues at the core of the lack of practice. For students who don't have the skills to play fluently yet, show them how putting a simple staccato stab over another guitar line can sound really great. Demonstrate how simplicity can be really effective and how professional players know when to keep it simple. Again, backing up your statement with a recording or a physical demonstration always makes more of an impact than verbal suggestion alone. Another big way to inspire students is to show improvement. If a guitarist can play advanced solos and shred up and down the fretboard, they might be considered technically great. However, if they don't improve, they can often feel as despondent as the beginner who can only strum one chord. So it's not always about how good the student is, but rather how they feel about their progress. Make a point this week to really make an effort with students who aren't feeling good about their playing. Compliment them on any improvements and let them know that they are doing well. Get yourself a copy of my Use Your Buzz to Play the Guitar Beginner's Workbook and implement the benchmark lick exercise that I have created for students and teachers. Too much yapping. Some people just love to talk, and talk, and talk. Being social with your students is great, but too much talking about personal frustrations or outside activities can actually slow down the learning process considerably. It may not seem like such a bad thing, though later on, as the student starts to think that they aren't learning anything, to them it will be you that is at fault. Talk with your students by all means, but avoid gossip or negative talk about others. This distracts them from what they are there to do, learn how to play the guitar. Needless to say, if you talk negatively of others, it only puts you in a negative light. It also taints the professionalism that you have worked so hard to achieve. Do not habitually criticize other guitar teachers. Word gets around, even if only in your head. If you find waffling on a particular problem with a certain student, direct them back to the guitar. Again, you will have to be the judge for each scenario. I had students that I let vent a little more than others because of their situation and how it affected practice and their life. But taking on everyone's problems can hurt you, and then you won't be the best teacher that you can be. You can listen and lend an ear if necessary, but you can do it in a way where you don't hold on to others' negative energy. That's important for your mental health and your enthusiasm for teaching. By keeping the lessons focused on learning and enjoying the lesson, your student will, in the long term, feel like their money is being well spent. Direct the focus back to the task at hand during lessons where a student is gossiping. This exercise might seem a little unimportant, but it is a quality in your teaching that will add to your professionalism and confidence as a teacher. No income in the holidays. As a business person, it is essential that you look forward and budget accordingly. If you know your students would be a bit slack with attendance over the holidays, start putting a little money aside months earlier. There are other options. You can go back to the budget template I asked you to draw earlier. Rearrange as necessary as the holidays come closer, or you can look at your policy and run your lessons on a weekly payment requirement, similar to that of a gym membership. Doing so will save you a lot of hassle with quieter holiday periods and actually encourages more regular attendance from students. A third option is to look outside of your immediate business for other income options in the holiday season, provided that you are not on holiday yourself. The main thing is to look ahead and be aware of how best to approach your income situation for times when attendance will be low. Look at the calendar for the present year and highlight any weeks where attendance will be low or non-existent. Plan now to ensure that you will be fine financially during those times. If you need to make a new budget or financial plan, do so and stick to it. Burnout. I have saved the most important for last. Burnout is something that I have experienced and I would not recommend it for anybody. You might think that working extremely hard is the way to be successful, but if you work too hard in the wrong ways, it can do more damage than good. A few years back I wrote a book, created and organized a music festival, studied 5 major courses simultaneously, toured the country, taught students weekly, played and practiced in the band, wrote songs, and tried to do all of it at once whilst balancing a relationship. What happened? I burned out, and I ended up staring blankly at a computer screen with bags under my eyes. Look after yourself. Know when to rest. Your body will tell you. Listen to your conscience. It's there for a reason. Do you need a couple of days rest? Schedule it in so that you don't put it off. Do not teach on your days off. Look at any areas where you can make better use of your time and apply what you can to the running of your business. Avoid taking on projects which will stress you out. Practice sitting still, quietly for 5 minutes. If you can't do that more than once each day, then you might need to look at a different approach for your work. Relax, and you will have more inspired energy to create and work with. So there you have it. your complete guide to having your own successful music tuition business. As I mentioned at the start of this book, you will get out of this as much as you put in. All reading and no action brings nothing. You must do. I hope that you've enjoyed working your way through these exercises, and I trust that you understand it's not all about the money. The best things you receive from being a teacher are the seemingly little things along the way. The teenage girl remembering when you consoled her as a child to help with her stage fright. The young boy telling you that your teaching has not just helped with his guitar playing, but with his schooling too. The student who hands you a guitar that they made by hand and tells you that they would like you to keep it. The student who makes a road case for an amplifier as a school project and gives it to you after all of their hard work. The middle-aged person letting you know that their lessons have brought more joy into their life and in turn helped their relationship. Or the elderly person thanking you for giving them a new passion for life again through your lessons. These things are all situations that I was fortunate enough to be in through my teaching, and they are truly moments that I will cherish for the rest of my life. Be sure to revisit the exercises throughout the years, and you will get something new each time you come back to them. Use your notebooks and develop the good habits that will help you to be conditioned for success. To be a great teacher, be a great student first. Use other resources that I've made available to you, such as the Musician's Confidence course and the Musician's Values series, to boost your own skills. I wish you all the best, and may you have some truly magical moments by giving the gift of music through teaching.